It does need to be done, though, in terms of what young people are looking at.
Yeah, social media is very, like, unfiltered, especially for, like, young boys. Like, the things they could be saying, they'll see and think it's right. Like, they can be indoctrinated by, like, the constant things that are coming up on their feed. And if they, like, look at the comments and see people are agreeing with it, they can feel validated.
The eye-opening drama shining a light on the challenges facing young people and parents. The hardest part now, of course, is knowing what society does next. Katie Spencer, Sky News.
Let's bring in our duo of the evening, shall we? Nick Ferrari and Dawn Butler. Great to have you both here. And I guess just picking on that last line that Katie said, you know, what's society's response going to be? Because I think, I know I watched Adolescence, I thought it was brilliant, actually. It's definitely made me think, you know, a lot about phones and how responsible we are with them. But I guess it's the policy thing that is difficult. And Nick, you were talking just to me earlier, weren't you, about the number of teachers that have contacted you about what's happening in schools?
So for the first time in my life, I was actually ahead of this, and I happened to watch this by pure chance, and it was quite breathtaking. So we did something on the radio show that I'm on LBC, and we had a leading educationist say, oh, schools aren't like this. It's just simply not fair. Now, I don't know. It's a long time since I was at school, and actually it's quite a while since my sons were at school. And that really, Sophie, lit up the phones because we had teachers ringing and saying, and we had parents saying yes. Because for me, Dawn, the most horrific, the most horrific part of it is the behaviour in schools. Yeah. And if schools are actually like that, or some schools are like that, what chance do these children have? So I welcome the initiative that Netflix are going to make it available to be played in schools. I think that's great. But let's be very careful. We need to have informed teachers. Otherwise, I think they'll just be... If schools are like what we saw on the show, they'll just be kids... The lads will be egging it on and it's all great fun. So that was... I will not forget the number of calls that poured in. It was quite remarkable, Sophie.
It's interesting. Dawn, have you watched it as well?
I have, I've watched it. I mean, I think it's quite layered and there's lots of issues here. I mean, I've been talking about incels for many, many years. And when I first mentioned it in Parliament, people were like, what are you talking about? That's not a big deal. You know, that's just on the dark web. And I think that now you've got to remember that we're having this conversation in the context of some very high-profile, misogynistic men who are fueling this as well. And so I had a meeting with the Teachers' Union just last week, and they say that the teachers, they've got so much to handle. I mean, I remember one teacher saying to me that a kid in her class said, have you ever been raped, miss? As a question. And so it's absolutely incredible what our teachers are having to deal with in the classroom. And I just think that the war on woke, the culture wars, that's making fertile ground for all of these things to grow. And so we have to be very mindful about that, because at the end of the day, these predominantly young men, they're reaching out for connection, and it's who they connect with is going to make all the difference.
But isn't it interesting? So we've spoken about schools and pupils, we've spoken about teachers, and we've spoken about the government. Not a word about parents. And I do think there is enormous responsibility as parents. The most important job I ever had and will ever have was raising my two sons. It was, by the way, the best job I ever had. I absolutely loved and was thrilled by every minute. And I know that there are some families that are broken, and I understand that. But we can't blame the government for everything. Now, the government need to fix it. But no, there are times when parental responsibility kicks in, and you should know what your child's getting up to.
And actually, the drama, what I thought was really powerful about it, it showed that. Because, you know, it's not saying that they're not terrible parents. No, they're not like, you know, they're trying to do their best. Yeah. But you can also see, you know, the times where both the policeman and, you know, Stephen Graham's character are just not connecting with their kids in the way they should be, in the way that other people then come in to
and you think your kid's safe because they're in the room, they're not out on the street. Exactly. But actually, what are they doing in the room? What are they being fed?
Can I ask you, Dawn, because at the beginning of the show, and you might think it was unfair, I was questioning about what the policy response is here from Labour, because they've decided against, so far it seems, a ban of phones in schools. There's suggestion that they might be rowing back on the digital services tax, although obviously we don't know that either way. Do you feel the government needs to step in with a bit more policy?
Well, 90% of schools ban phones in the classroom anyway. And so that was kind of political posturing by
is that just in the classroom, because they can still have them in school?
By the leader of the opposition. Well, the thing is this, and I spoke to the youngest person that works for me is 25. So she said She went to a school where they banned phones, but they found ways to sneak phones into the school because that's what you do when something's banned. Her sister went to a school where they had phones and they didn't use their phones until they, like, were in the playground or whatever. So, but I actually agree with Keir, it's the content. So it's not actually the phone, it's actually the content that's being fed to young people. It's the algorithms that these social media companies are pushing. You know, it's designed to keep people addicted to their phones, and we have to tackle that. And actually, I think we should be taxing them, because at the end of the day, getting away with not paying tax and having all this access to the public and society is wrong. So we have to be, and this online safety bill goes some way to delivering that. But absolutely, there's a lot that we have to do.
Nick?
Why are you in the job you're in now? Probably because you had great parents who took a real interest in you, I would imagine. Why have you achieved what you've achieved? We are very lucky. We have parents, and I appreciate there are broken families out there, but I do think it's unfair to keep coming back to the government. Of course, they need to do what they can, but it should be awake. And I know that that is a great dad in the show. I've watched it, and a great mum. I realise that, but there is more that parents can do. And I say to parents now whose children are upstairs on their mobile phones, do you actually know what they're getting up to? Is it not a responsibility for you to find out more? The government must do what it can, but there is a role for parents here. Let's not forget this.
And it comes back down to human connection. Like, so much of that has been outsourced to an iPad or a phone or whatever. We have to bring back that humanity. As we talk about AI and the development of AI, we've got to bring back humanity and making sure that we are connecting and we're talking and we're eating together, we're breaking bread, that kind of thing. And it's a good thing.
The government didn't bring you up. The government's not bringing your children up. The government didn't bring the government. That is. I know there are broken families, but we have to be alive.
You know, you guys have done a lot of panels together over the last 18 months or so. I feel like this is the most I've ever seen you agree on something. I'm never sure I've ever found a topic.
Because it's pretty serious.
There you go. Thanks both. It's really good to have you on today, Nick and Dawn there. Well, the government's illegal migration summit is one of the stories, sure to feature in tomorrow's papers, as well as, of course, as the feedback on the Adolescence meeting too. We'll have our extended press preview from 10:30 this evening with tonight's news and tomorrow's headlines. Joining us will be The Guardian's political editor, Keir, and The Sun's political editor, Harry Cole. Now to an ongoing bust-up over bins in Birmingham, where the council's declared a major incident. Refuse workers have been striking for weeks in a row over pay, with 17,000 tonnes of uncollected rubbish now piling up on the streets of the city. Sky's Alice Porter has more.
Well, major incidents are usually declared by local councils in extreme situations such as flooding. The fact that Birmingham City Council has made this declaration really shows just how chaotic this city is now in, with rubbish having been not collated for a number of weeks now. In terms of why the local council have done this now, they're hoping that it will mean that they can pay more agency staff to be involved in collecting some of the bins. And we know that an extra 35 vehicles are going to be deployed. But it's also another way in which they can hope that there may be some support from the government as they try and tackle this issue. Now, bin workers have been striking intermittently since January, but they really wrapped up their efforts a couple of weeks ago. And this is an ongoing dispute over pay and working conditions, and the workers are being represented by the Unite union. Now, they say that the cutting of a waste recycling and collection officer roles that are designed to protect health and safety, the cutting of that, they are striking over that. And also a number of workers, around 170 workers, are facing pay cuts of around £8,000. That's very much Unite's position, and that's why they're going on strike. And they've been talks going on for some weeks now, but clearly they're at this stalemate. Yesterday, we had the Conservatives who were writing to Angela Rayner urging an urgent Cobra meeting to try and resolve the situation. And we have had a statement come from the government in the last 10 minutes or so, and they're very much pushing the focus back on Birmingham City Council, which we should make clear they were effectively declared bankrupt earlier a few months ago. And so they have an interim government that are in charge of Birmingham City Council. So certainly the backdrop to all this is the financial situation that Birmingham City Council finds itself in. But they may well be disappointed that the response so far from the government is that this is clearly a local issue. They say it is right that it continues to be a locally led response, as is usual in the case of council-run services. But they do say that they are monitoring the situation and will not hesitate to act contract should the council require additional support. So that may well be some welcome news for Birmingham City Council, who have declared that major incident.
As Porter there. Well, in response to the ongoing strikes, the Communities Minister Jim McMahon had this update.
Members across the House will know that the current industrial action in the city is causing misery and disruption to local people. And I know that honourable members whose constituents are affected will be acutely aware of the disruption. Now, from the outset, I want to be clear that the statutory intervention is led by commissioners, and ministers cannot legally intervene in this industrial action. This is causing public health risks to the city's most vulnerable and deprived residents. As a result, I am aware that Birmingham has today declared a major incident to give them the mechanisms to better manage the impact on local residents.
We can chat again to Nick and Dawn. I mean, bins, like, genuinely are such a big deal. It's people's direct contact with the state. It's what people can see, you know, they pay their council tax for. And, I mean, it's a big deal, right?
It is a big deal. And now's not the weather either, is it, to have rubbish?
Oh, no, I didn't even think about that. It's true.
It's really, like, quite grim. And I do think that the council has to resolve this issue. I mean, nobody... You know, if people were aware that you're going to be losing £8,000 a year from your wage, I mean, this cost of living crisis. So it's really important that this is resolved as soon as possible. I'm not across all the details of it. I think there's also an equal pay claim in there somewhere. But yes, for the people of Birmingham, this is too much, really.
Well, this hits people where they live, doesn't it? It's like bins and potholes. This is what people care about. We did quite a report on this, and it would appear as your report
got a good scheme for potholes.
Yes, no, that's coming. That is the government's. The government can't be called in here. I mean, Birmingham City Council has had a rather ill-starred past, hasn't it? It went bankrupt. They're trying to fight their way out of it. It's fought various cases. And it would appear, and the union told us, that they are both cutting jobs and cutting pay, and the union declined to comment, so we can only take it from that. And the other point that I would make is you have now got rats the size of cats. Well, the bin men and women that you just saw in that report, they're living in that as well. So they're having to have their husbands, their wives, their children. So they're only doing this because they really, really feel it. And if it is as the union presented, then Birmingham City Council have got themselves in a really deep hole here. And you're both too young to remember it, but I remember when a government was brought down when they couldn't clear the rubbish away. In Leicester Square, you weren't even born, but Leicester Square, Jim Callahan, the famous pictures of mountains of rubbish. Birmingham City Council need to be very, very careful here, and they need to move. As to Dawn's point, this needs to be resolved for the good of the council and the health of people in Birmingham.
Is this just one more example of how squeezed council budgets are?
I mean, that is true. Like 14 years of Tory cuts. I mean, my council, Brent, they had to find nearly £300 million worth of savings, and they still have to find more, which is crazy. So they didn't have a fixed amount coming to them, but they will now under Labour government. So that is a problem. But ultimately, you know, they should be working with the trade unions to get this resolved. I mean, the trade unions will be saying, look, this is a problem, what you're doing is a problem, and this is how you resolve it. And actually, there's no point in, like, Birmingham City Council saying, well, look, we're not doing this, because this is the result. And as you say, everybody will look out their window and see their rubbish piling up, and that's a constant daily reminder.
Well, they've had to call police, haven't they? There have been incidents when a bin lorry has actually come round and people have swarmed to the bin lorry, and police officers have been called because the degree of... But you have to ask, and by the way, I'm not telling people of Birmingham, what are they paying their council tax for? If their rubbish is... And by the way, keep paying your council tax or you'll go to court. But what on earth are they paying it for if they can't clear the rubbish away?
It's such a big deal.
It's huge.
I was speaking about my bin men before on Politics Hub, but I had the best ever bin men. And it makes such a difference to my life, like, to your daily life.
What you're doing now. I know you throw everything in the same bin. I know what you're doing.
They're so good. If I forget to take the rubbish out, they come and take my bin. You know, but it's like this. It's really.
They come into your kitchen and empty the bin.
They don't do that. They don't do that.
We'll work it out for Sophie.
Come on, get them all together. But it is that point again, isn't it, where it's your sort of direct connection to you pay your tax for something and you get a service, and everyone should get.
And because of the cuts, you know, there used to be a weekly pickup And then for some areas, it's now fortnightly pickup because they had to save money, and that was one way of saving money.
Birmingham is annual, I think, in Birmingham. And I'm not laughing, it's horrific for them, it's horrific.
Thanks, both. Great to
load of
chat,
rubbish.
as always. A load of rubbish.
We've got to get a pun in there somehow, absolutely.
Right. Well, let's talk now, shall we, about the local elections, because today it was the Lib Dems' turn to launch their campaign. Ed Davey said that the party of Middle England and the elections, in his book, are now a two-horse race. But he also took a swipe at politicians further afield, ramping up his criticism of President Trump. Our political correspondent Rob Powell caught up with him in a very sunny Henley-on-Thames.
Ed Davey, we're in Oxfordshire. We're at a nice golf club here. You've been hobby horsing. You're saying you're the party for Middle England. Are you basically saying the Lib Dems are the posh party now?
No, not at all. We're the party that represents people from all walks of life. I think people realise that at local elections, you need to elect people who will stand up for your community and champion them and get things fixed. That's what people want. And, you know, you don't have to take my word for it. Listen to the leader of the Conservatives, Kemi Badenoch. She did a radio interview, podcast, where she said Liberal Democrats are the people who get your church roof fixed and who the community like. And I think she meant it as an insult, but I wear it as a badge of honour. We do get things fixed. We are community activists wherever we are in the country.
But, you know, we're at a Swiss golf club here. You're sort of having fun with hobby horsing. Is there a risk that people that are really struggling right now look at this and go, these guys just don't get it, things are really hard, no. And they're having fun in the sun in Oxfordshire?
No, because when we knock on their doors and we talk about everything from fixing social care, which is so important for people who are elderly and disabled, and of course knock-on effect to the health service, when we talk about environmental issues like sewage in the rivers and our seas, when we talk about fixing flat potholes, they know we're taking their concerns seriously.
You've talked about tariffs on Tesla. Do you think people should boycott Tesla?
Well, let's get tariffs on them first. That will really get
Do you think people should buy Tesla cars?
I don't interfere with people's choices. What I do think, though,
would you buy one?
I would not buy one.
Why? Because of Elon Musk?
Well, Elon Musk is obviously my favourite fan. He's so kind and generous to everybody. He's not, obviously, I'm joking. This is a man who's squatting in the White House, the richest man in the world, and he says horrible things. He backs extremely right-wing parties and does so much damage to America, let alone to anyone else. And I think by saying we should have tariffs on Teslas, not only is it pushing back against Donald Trump, but it's making Elon Musk hurt. I think that's a good thing. I think it's good and smart strategy.
So you don't think people should sell their Teslas as they've got them? I saw quite a few in the car park here today. You don't think people should be getting rid of their Teslas?
Well, I think people are changing their mind on Teslas. I mean, you see that in their figures, don't you? Their sales figures are going down, their share price is plummeting. I think people who would have liked to believe that Teslas was the way forward are now saying, well, hold on a minute, we don't want to be associated with someone with these horrible views.
Well, fresh from speaking to you, the Lib Dem leader, Rob, joins us now. So, Rob, Ed Davey on an actual hobby horse jumping around. How did it go down?
Look, I think the pitch here is quite clearly for rural areas, the leafy shires, the sort of affluent areas that would usually vote Tory, but are perhaps still angry with how it all played out in the final few years of the Tory government. The Tories aren't helped that they're coming from 2021, which was a brilliant year for them in the local government election. So they've got a high place that they can fall from. I think these areas as well probably wouldn't have necessarily gone Labour, but certainly wouldn't based on some of the policies coming out at the moment. So I think they think that they've got space there, essentially. They term it as Middle England, but that's sort of one of those woolly phrases that can be applied quite broadly. And Ed Davey didn't really seem to pin down what he meant by it when I talked to him a little bit earlier. I think part of this opportunity comes, though, from what seems to be quite an astonishingly relaxed attitude Kemi Badenoch is taking towards the Lib Dems. They seem to be focused a lot on their right flank and on Reform UK and voters going there. They seem to have forgotten that 60 seats turned from Tory to Lib Dem in July last year. I mean, they were where we were today. They were drummed out of Oxfordshire completely. And the interview that Ed Davey was talking about there that Kemi Badenoch gave, she basically said in a sort of dismissive way that Lib Dems are nice people who are good at fixing the church roof. So someone goes, oh, you should go and be an MP. Well, look, I think it's easy to laugh at when you're sat on a podcast with Jordan Peterson, but That strikes me as quite a conservative thing to do, doesn't it? Like fixing church roofs.
It doesn't sound too bad for most people. So, all right, actually, they sound all right, better than most of them.
Well, you wonder, a lot of the people that maybe switched Lib Dems probably thought that if the Tories had spent more time fixing the church roof in a broader sense of the word, rather than tearing strips off each other, then it might not have played out how it did back in July. The other thing I'd say, though, we got the obligatory stunt as well, the hobby horse. It did feel, and I know we've done this all the way through the general election campaign, and I don't want to kind of be a bit of a killjoy, but at a time when everyone's bills are about to go up and there's a lot of bleak stuff happening around the world, it did feel a bit weird to be in a very affluent part of the country, in quite a swish golf club in Henley, with Ed Davey running around on a pretend horse. Now, you know, he says that the deal here is that they talk about serious policy, which they do when you talk about NHS and social care and things like that. But I wonder whether the tone was quite right there.
It's interesting.
And I think it is relevant to ask that when a lot of people are feeling very angry about the state of a lot of parts of the country, is it politically wise for the Lib Dems to kind of keep pitching their tone like this? Are they a kind of receptacle for that anger? And maybe come the next general election, do we see them start to change this a little bit?
It'll be interesting to see how those election results feed through. You're talking there about the state of the world, and it does feel that that is an area that Ed Davey's been trying to create some space on. He, I guess, feels that he can go further on Donald Trump than most of other politicians for various political reasons. Is that something that they touched on?
Yeah, I think it's this space again between Labour and the Tories that Labour can't have a go at Donald Trump or Elon Musk because they're in government and there's diplomatic niceties to adhere to. As we were saying before, Kemi Badenoch and the Tories seem more concerned with the right flank of their party, so they're kind of striking a warmer tone towards it. Neither want to talk about, I guess, the EU and economic ties with the EU, so they believe they're the only people that are talking about this now. But, you know, you sort of drive in around Henley, and I did notice Teslas gliding in and out of all of the different roads, which is why I wanted to ask him about, look, would you buy one? Do you think people should sell your Teslas? It's probably not the biggest political contradiction they have, though, but it does make you think about other kind of possible internal tensions. A big part of their offer is whack taxes up and put loads of money, billions of pounds, into the NHS and social care. Well, how does putting capital gains tax go down in places like Henley-on-Thames and quite moneyed areas around the southeast? What about planning? That's always a flashpoint at their conference when people in home counties' constituencies realise that their voters don't quite like lots of homes being built on their doorstep. How does that fit with commitments to, you know, open up access to the property market? At the moment, though, I don't think they really care about those questions, to be honest. I think they're trading off dissatisfaction with the two main parties. And also, I think they're focusing a lot on their local work and their local campaigning work, and not so much on the national message. And I think for now they think that'll work. And who knows, come election day, it may well.
Fixing that church roof. Rob, thank you very much indeed, Rob Powell, speaking to us there. You're watching the Politics Hub. Coming up, the Prime Minister pledges to ramp up action against people smugglers as he hosts a summit to crack down on illegal migration.
It's like a football final with only one team on the pitch. This isn't just a call to vote, but a call to remember. The freedom fought for by the African National Congress.
I'm Yusra Al-Bagher, Sky's Africa correspondent based in Johannesburg, South Africa.
A cyclone and 2 burst dams wiped out hundreds of generational homes.
This was the second dam that the floodwaters hit before it tore into Derna. We are in the heart of Nairobi, and we're watching as protesters were heavily tear gassed.
The sheer fearlessness and persistence of these guys is astonishing.
We help you understand the world with us. I remember going into the iconic Omdurman market in the heart of Sudan's capital for the first time since the war started. And this is what's left of it. Bullet holes through buildings, shelled balconies, bullet cases on the floor. I witnessed the complete destruction of a place linked to my childhood memories and the lives of millions of people. This is insane. This was a bustling residential area. So many friends who lived here. My most memorable interview was with a 15-year-old boy who'd survived being stranded on a migrant boat on its way from Senegal to the Canary Islands.
After 13 days, our food, water and fuel supply ran out.
I felt awe when we saw the mountain gorillas in Rwanda.
We call him the king of the jungle. This is the alpha silverback.
Sky News. Get the full story first. Yusra al-Bagher, Sky News.
We are under Israeli military restrictions in terms of some of the things that we can film, but it's important to be in there. What a slow drive for the president as he approaches his golf club. 4 more years! Free wherever you get your news. I'm Mark Stone and I'm Sky's correspondent based here in Washington, D.C.
Hello again. Now, illegal immigration is back as a political issue. I mean, it's never really gone away, of course. But Keir Starmer says he's angry about it. He's so angry, he's called a summit with representatives from more than 40 countries, as well as tech company officials. But will it make a difference? Sky's political correspondent, Tamara Cohen, has been finding out.
When are you going to stop the boats, Prime Minister? Channel crossings are rising. Are you doing enough?
Burning questions for a Prime Minister who has promised to tackle illegal migration.
We need to do more of it to get the countries together today.
He says it will require global solutions. But getting results is also crucial for him domestically.
It undermines our ability to control who comes here. And that makes people angry. It makes me angry, frankly. Because it's unfair on ordinary working people who pay the price, from the cost of hotels to our public services struggling under the strain.
This is what the government wants us to see more of.
You're under arrest under the Extradition Act.
A raid on Afghan suspected people smugglers in Britain in conjunction with Belgian police. Attending the talks in London were ministers from the countries people flee, like Iraq and Vietnam, the places they transit and the destinations they end up. But how do you deter smugglers from using new routes?
Well, we're substantially increasing returns and enforcement because, frankly, the rules need to be respected and enforced. They haven't been for far too long, and we're doing this.
We will come back to the immigration story, but we just want to take you to Houston, where NASA astronauts are holding a press conference to explain their time stuck in space. Let's listen.
I wanted to kick off with words that would describe what the Crew 9 mission meant, and I think ultimately it's unique, like every spaceflight mission tends to be, and you don't know exactly how they're going to play out. But I think that the Crew 9 mission, when it comes to it, it highlights to me safety and the importance of the mission and the balance of those two. As you all know, back in the early fall, NASA was balancing the safe return of Sonny and Butch with the need to continue the mission that's been going on board the space station for 2.5 decades up there, performing research for the benefit of humanity. And so there was a decision made to send Alex and I up with a couple empty seats and integrate Butch and Sonny into the crew of Crew 9, and then bring them back at the end of a long-duration spaceflight mission. And so we sit here today, minus Alex, who's recuperating in Russia right now, with friends and family, thankfully. And we sit here as a testament to the success of that mission. So I look forward to answering your questions. Sonny?
Yeah, sure. Just wanted to say thanks. Thanks to Nick and Alex for coming up and getting us and bringing us home, and thanks to so many who prepared us for our mission. The Commercial Crew Program with NASA and Boeing, as well as SpaceX, really got us ready to go. All of the trainers here at Johnson Space Center, the mission control teams all over the country, in Florida to California, so throughout the whole country, as well as what we're doing now. Our teams here are getting us ready to get, rehab and get ready to take on new challenges. So, feeling good since we've been back almost 2 weeks now. Actually went out and ran 3 miles yesterday, so I will give myself a little pat on the back. Our trainers are rocking it and getting us ready to get back to help out with the new astronauts as they're getting ready for their mission. So the biggest thing I want to say was thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sonny.
Let me start off with an analogy, a sports analogy. This very difficult job that we take part in, it's a team sport. It encompasses organizations throughout NASA, throughout the country, coming together. The Commercial Crew Program, headquarters, the International Space Station program, working together day in and day out behind the scenes, diligently to make all of this work together. And then you couple that with a nation that comes together and it cares about the human spaceflight program and prays for us and what's taking place. It goes beyond understanding, honestly. And then this organization also is incorporated into an international organization that reaches beyond our own borders and brings in the world like no other organization on or off the planet. And I can tell you, it's simply a privilege to take part in all of that.
All right, thank you all for your opening remarks. We will go ahead and start taking questions now. If you're in the room, please raise your hand and we'll be sure to get a microphone over to you. If you're joining from our phone bridge, please press *1 when you're ready to enter the queue. And due to the high volume of questions today that we are receiving, we ask that media start with one question, and if we have time for a second round, we'll come back around to you. We'll start here in the first row with any questions. Mark, go ahead.
Mark Strassman, CBS News. Welcome back, everyone. Good to talk to all of you again. We're meeting in this auditorium for a reason. There are roughly 60 news outlets represented here, another 120 or so on the phone. Butch and Sonny, have you been surprised by the continuing and intense interest in your space saga?
I would have to say yes, absolutely. You know, it's interesting. We go and launch, and we knew it was a little bit unique. Obviously, first time flying on a new spacecraft. So yeah, that was interesting. But you know, then life goes on up there. And I mentioned yesterday, you know, we pivoted and we are International Space Station crew members, and we're doing what all of our other friends in the astronaut office do: is go and work and train and do amazing science experiments up on the International Space Station. So you know, I think you sort of get maybe a little bit tunnel visioned in what your job is. So you know, do your job type of thing, right? And so you're not really aware of what else is going on down here. I hate to say that. You know, maybe the world doesn't revolve around us, but we revolve around the world, like something like that. But you know, I think we were just really focused on what we were doing and trying to be part of the team and making sure we pulled our weight for the team. Of course, we heard some things, and I'll let you know, obviously hand this off to Butch. Heard some stuff from our friends and family that people were interested and wondering what's going on and concerned about our health and all that kind of stuff while we were up there. But I mean, we were just part of the team doing the job, filling in wherever we could, and then knowing that there's rotational flights and we will be coming home eventually on a rotational flight. So no, I don't think we were aware to the degree. Pretty honored and humbled by the fact of when we came home, like, wow, there are a lot of people who are interested, very thankful, very amazed that we could hopefully be one positive element to bring people together.
Yeah, I don't know that there's much I could add to that. Just thankful for a nation that cares, a nation that prays, and the nation that is involved in the processes that are important to all of us.
Okay, we'll take our next question here in the room. Tom, go ahead.
Hi, Tom Costello with NBC News. Again, welcome back. Nice to see you all. Everybody's been thinking about you and worried about you. And I'm wondering, once you got your feet back on terra firma, what's the first thing both of you wanted to do? And were there any foods you were craving after 9+ months?
Go ahead, Sam.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to hug my husband and hug my dogs. And I'll say that in that order. But maybe not. No, I'm just joking. But of course, food, something that's just like for home for me, like something that is very, reminds you of home. And my father was a vegetarian, so I had a good grilled cheese sandwich when I got home. So that reminded me of him.
Yeah, certainly embracing the family again, but also the opportunity, and I've already said it a couple of times, is just to say thank you to a nation that got involved in all of this. It makes it special, not just for us, but for I think our nation as a whole. So thank you.
All right, we'll take our next question right here in the front row.
Thank you. My question's for Sonny. When you first got off the plane in Houston, we saw you hug Zena Cardman, and there was a nice exchange. If you could describe what happened and your gratitude towards the crew members who stepped aside so that you'd have seats coming back.
Yeah, it's a great observation, so thank you very much. Zena's awesome, Stephanie Wilson, awesome. When this whole thing was unraveling, like my heart went out because it's just sort of like, wow, you're waiting for your space flight, specifically Zena, as her first flight, like, wow, you know, it's a little bit rough to know that you're going to be moved to a different flight. But at the same time, you know, she is an awesome person, an awesome astronaut. She's going to get the opportunity. And, you know, this just wasn't the right flight for her to be on at that moment in time. And so I just gave her a big, huge hug. I told her that I used her Crew 9 shirt when we were up there for a photo op, but I packed it back up real nicely and put it in her stuff. And, you know, little joking aside, I just wanted to really tell her thank you for taking one for the team. And that's what our office is about. But she needed to have that acknowledgement.
Okay, we'll take one more question here in the room, and then we'll head to our phone bridge.
Hi, this question is for Sunita. I'm Jeff Saperstone, by the way, from NBC in Boston. A lot of people in your hometown in Needham, they've been watching this
Go Sox.
bit by bit, every moment. Yeah, everybody at the elementary school, there was a big watch party for you when you came home. What's your message to them? They've been so anxiously awaiting for you to return.
Oh, well, I'm back. Foremost, we were always coming back, and I think people need to know that, and we're back to actually, you know, share our story with so many people, because, you know, it's like you all mentioned, it's slightly unique, and there's some lessons learned to it, and part of that is just resilience and being able to take a turn that was unexpected and make the best of it. And I think that is the biggest thing that I want to, you know, pass down, particularly to kids who think that their life should be the straight arrow to what you want to do, and you're just going to get there. Well, you know, sometimes it takes some turns, some rights and some lefts, and you just keep focused on your goal, and other doors might be open for you. So I think that's the biggest message.
All right, we'll head to our phone bridge. Our first question there is from Marcia Dunn with the Associated Press.
Welcome back, everybody. Butch, this question is for you. Where do you lay the blame for your Starliner test flight? Clearly, Starliner was not ready to fly when it did. Whom do you hold responsible for everything that happened? Thanks.
That is a question that I cannot answer in a couple of comments, but I'll start with me. There were some issues, of course, that happened with Starliner. There were some issues, of course, that happened that prevented us from returning on Starliner. And I'll start with me. There were questions that I, as the commander of the spacecraft, that I should have asked, and I did not. At the time, I didn't know I needed to. And maybe you could call that hindsight, but I'll start and point the finger and I'll blame me. I could ask some questions, and the answers to those questions could have turned the tide. So blame, that's a term, I don't like that term, but certainly there's responsibility throughout all the programs, and certainly you can start with me. Responsibility with Boeing, yes. Responsibility with NASA, yes. All the way up and down the chain. We all are responsible. We all own this. And we are, in this business, trust. You cannot do this business without trust. You have to have ultimate trust. And for someone to step forward and these different organizations say, hey, I'm culpable for part of that issue, that goes a long way to maintaining trust. So we're not going to look back and say this happened or that happened and that person's or that issue or that entity's to blame. We're going to look forward and say, what are we going to use our lessons learned from this whole process and make sure that we are successful in the future. This is a tough business. The analogy about it is it's always a curvy road. It's never straight in this business. And minimizing those curves and being systems and processes in effect to prevent some of these curves is what we have to do as we leave low Earth orbit and go beyond to the moon and beyond that. So we're going to look forward, and that's the focus.
All right, our next question on the phone bridge is from Anthony with Spectrum News.
Hello, welcome back, everyone. It's nice seeing everyone return healthy and safe. I have a question for both you, Sunny, and Butch. Given the opportunity, would you guys go up on Starliner again?
Yes, because we're going to rectify all the issues that we encountered.
Yeah.
We're going to fix them. We're going to make it work. Boeing's completely committed. NASA is completely committed, and with that, I get on in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I would agree. The spacecraft is really capable. There were a couple things that need to be fixed, like Butch mentioned, and folks are actively working on that. But it is a great spacecraft, and it has a lot of capability that other spacecraft don't have. And to see that thing successful and to be part of that program is an honor.
Yeah.
Our next question is from Jackie with the Times of London.
Yes, hello, and welcome back to Earth. I wondered about the stuck, stranded, marooned narrative, and to what extent were you aware of that narrative playing out around that down here, and has that been frustrating for you to have to address? Thank you.
I'm sorry, that was a little garbled.
The stuck maroon narrative.
Oh, stuck maroon.
Oh, the stuck maroon narrative. We heard about that. Yeah, we heard about that.
Somebody mentioned that.
We've said this before. We had a plan, right? The plan went way off for what we had planned, but because we're in human spaceflight, we prepare for any number of contingencies because this is a curvy road. You never know where it's going to go. We prepare for this. So we, as Sonny used the term, and it's a great term, we pivoted to all that training we did that we didn't think we needed to do, and a lot of people didn't think we needed to do, but we did it anyway, as we pivoted to this other preparation, and that is what makes human spaceflight, your human spaceflight program, special. It is hard, like I said, and preparing for any number of contingencies is what we do. It happened to be me and Sonny involved in this, but it could have been any one of the astronauts. There's 40 or so of us eligible for assignment. It would have been any one of us that would have been in the same situation, or could have been in the same situation, and would have done the exact same thing that we did, because they would have gone prepared just like we did.
Yeah, and one addition to that, this is a lot bigger than Butch and myself, like we've talked about already. This is the International Space Station program, and there's a lot of wheels that are turning and wickets that we have to go through to get people up to the International Space Station to do all of the amazing science that we're doing up there. We recognize that, we know that, just like anybody else in the astronaut office, and we came, as Butch has mentioned before, prepared, and we were ready to do that pivot and be part of that bigger thing that's not just about us, knowing that everybody on the ground, there's a huge team of people, like I quickly mentioned in my quick thank you, but there's a huge group of people who are looking at the whole program and understanding how and what was the best time and way to get us back home. We knew that, and we were ready to wait until that decision was made, and that was fine.
And I'll also add that we're grateful for people that, I don't think they were looking just at us when they make recommendations. We can do this, we can do that. They're looking what's best for the human spaceflight program, for our nation's goals. They're not looking just about Sonny and Butch. And we appreciate those entities that do that and reach out and say, hey, we can do this, we can do that, we can do that. And NASA says, hey, we got a plan, we came prepared, here's what our plan is, and we think this is the best plan because it doesn't disrupt the flow of how these missions lay out. So, and that's the one we went with.
All right, we'll take our next question here in the room. Andrea, go ahead.
Thank you guys for being available today. So your mission became unusually political. Given your experience, do you think other astronauts are going to get nervous that they could be caught in the middle of a political fight? And is there a point where, this starts to jeopardize safety of a mission when you start looking at all these politics that come into play? Thank you.
I think Nick's got some good insight on that.
Good job.
So the way I'd like to answer that is that when we're up there operating in space, you don't feel the politics, you don't feel any of that. It's focused strictly on mission. And if I step back a little bit to the question before, Butch and Sonny talk up here, they make it sound like, everybody figured out what they could do with us. The reality is they are highly skilled, very technically competent, and it took everything I had on every day to keep up with them as they're moving along. So they were more than just gap fillers on the station. They were productive, pushing the station mission forward. And Sonny was the station commander, so she was calling the shots. So you get in that environment, that operational environment, the politics, they don't make it up there. We are working as a part of an international team that spans the globe and works with half a dozen mission control centers spread around the globe that are talking in multiple languages, and we just figure out how to make it happen. And that's the magic of human spaceflight, is that we can focus on something so positive that pulls people together, and we've been doing that for a long time.
Yeah.
All right, we'll take our next question here in the room.
Hi, I'm Jay Wan with KPRC, the NBC affiliate in Houston. This question is for Butch. I actually stopped by your church right before I came here, and I heard that you were still attending your church services from space.
Right.
Can you tell me a bit about why that was important for you to do?
Well, goodness, the Word of God continually infilling me. I need it. My pastors are the finest pastors on or off, in this case, the planet. And to tie in and to worship with my church family was vital. I mean, it's part of what makes me go. And not only that, I also tied into Grace Baptist Church in Mount Juliet, Tennessee. A buddy of mine is an elder there and a pastor there, and I would watch their service as well every single week. And it was invigorating. It was part of what I need as a believer in Jesus Christ to continue that focus. It assists me day in and day out because I need that fellowship, even though it's fellowship from afar, and it's not like being fellowship up close, but still I need it. So yeah, thank you for that.
Okay, we'll head back to our phone bridge. Next up is Ryan with NASAspaceflight.com.
Hi, thank you. For the whole crew, of course, this narrative that's being pushed out has made your mission probably the most popular NASA mission to the general public for as long as I can remember, probably since the retirement of the shuttle. But for the whole crew, do you think this extra attention has been a net positive or a net negative for the agency's sort of popularity and the spaceflight industry as a whole? Thank you.
I'll start with this one. Yeah. It's, again, an honor that actually people were paying attention. And I'm very thankful that people are paying attention. And, sometimes good news, bad news, it's just news, and it's good for space exploration, and that's what we're all about. Our mission, of course, building and working on the International Space Station was just awesome, and we all had the opportunity to do that. But we also have bigger goals of exploring our solar system, going back to the moon, going on to Mars. And to get people understanding that it is hard, it is difficult, and what we do up there is really awesome. And I think at least that we had a little bit of that came with the interest in this mission. And if we can perpetuate that and tell people a little bit more and have the opportunity, the forum to do that, I'm very thankful for that.
All right, our next question is from Nicole with the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation.
Hi there. Could you perhaps talk about how difficult it was being away from your friends and family, particularly since you hadn't prepared for that?
Difficult. Yes, I would say it was difficult. It wasn't in the preparation, but in my family, we talk about these possibilities. We discussed all of this. We never said we were going to be gone for 9 months. But it turned out that way. But the discussions we had, and it's not just discussions prior to the mission launch. This is the way we've trained our daughters from the time they were born, because their dad isn't a unique occupation, right? This is not the norm leaving the planet. And they understand that. And they, again, use that term, pivoted and got on board, understanding that this is part of what families and these type of businesses do. And it's not just in human spaceflight. This is military, armed forces, police forces, all across all different types of occupations that are involved in the possibility of extended stays away. And we're not unique in that. And so they understand that. They have friends that have parents in other areas where they've been involved in similar type situations, and all of that came together. And, the Lord's help, we persevered, and they persevered, and I can tell you, I am very proud of them.
We'll take another question on our phone bridge and then head back into the room. Our next question is from Tom with Sky News London.
Hello, thanks for taking my question. Congratulations on your extended mission and your safe return. Although the political situation around this did bring a lot of attention to space and to the International Space Station, some of the statements that were made during your stay up there caused embarrassment to NASA, forced them to make corrections to statements. Now that you're back, did the politics around your stay make a difficult situation worse?
I'm not sure I understood.
I didn't understand the question.
I missed everything
exactly.
except for that last part.
Yeah, you came in you were broken up just a little bit. Could you please try to repeat your question one more time?
Yeah, I will. Yes. Can you hear me? I was asking whether, although the political wrangling around your extended stay in space brought a lot of attention to human spaceflight, it did. Some of the political statements raised caused embarrassment to NASA, forced to make denials about various things that were offered and not offered, and sometimes to your astronaut colleagues. Did the politics around your mission make a difficult situation worse?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I talked about how the politics kind of, they don't make it up there when we're trying to make operational decisions. So as the commander of Crew 9, responsible for the safety of this crew and getting them back safely, I can tell you that the entire time up there, I launched with that singular objective of showing up to the station and having to integrate Butch and Sonny into a crew with Alex and myself. And then we were planning, from day one to return toward the end of February. That all predicated on the fact that we would have a replacement crew show up and we'd have adequate handover with that crew before we left. That's important to maintain the mission of the International Space Station, to continue pushing research and exploration. And that was never in question the entire time. There were a lot of options that were discussed, and the ground team and the team on the ground, we've alluded to it a couple times already, is gigantic. And everybody was working with singular focus on how do we end the Crew 9 mission at the right time and maintain the safety and the success of the space station mission. Launching in September, given all the unique dynamics surrounding this mission, and coming back originally targeting the end of February and hitting the middle of March, that's pretty much on target if you look at the track record of human spaceflight. It's dynamic, it's challenging, the weather doesn't always cooperate, but we figure out how to make it work.
All right, we will take our next question here in the room.
Fox 26 here in Houston. Welcome back to H-Town. Sonny and Butch, both of you all have a long history of being active and athletes, but with that being said, obviously you all spent nearly 9 months in space. What does that recuperation and recovery process look like, getting acclimated back here to Earth?
I'll start. I can tell you we have a group of individuals, astronaut strength conditioning and rehabilitation specialists. And we are directly integrated with them day in and day out. They send us protocols to work out. And I can tell you, I'm not as young as I used to be, but I was stronger on space station doing more weight and more reps on exercises than I have in my entire life. Because this group of professionals work to get us stronger and stronger and stronger. We're trying to minimize muscle atrophy, minimize our bone loss. So if we go to other planets, the moon and other planets in the foreseeable future, that we will be able to function when we get there. It's a whole science built around this team of individuals that are working to help us better understand human physiology and what zero gravity does to it and how we can mitigate the effects of the bone loss and the muscle atrophy. So day in and day out, I worked out every single day. We went into quarantine on the 22nd of April. And starting on the 22nd of April, I never missed a single day of workout because your body can recuperate in zero gravity. It doesn't have the normal stresses of gravity on it all the time. So you work out real hard, you hurt for an hour, and it finally fades away and you're ready to go the next day. So I applaud those individuals. They are making huge gains in the preparation to go beyond low Earth orbit. And it's science that is taking place day in and day out and has for years, and we're still learning and we're still progressing.
Yeah, at like day 265 on the ARED, because it counts all your days that you go and do a workout, I was thinking, I wish the hay was in the barn. But every single day, just like Butch is saying, you got to get on the machine and work out. And it actually is a really great stress relief to be able to have that time up there and run or bike or lift weights. It's really great. And the folks that Butch is talking about, is along with the nutritionists, really are looking out for us and making sure sure that when we get back here to planet Earth with gravity, we'll be able to function. So yeah, it's an adjustment when we get back, and they're here right with us from day one when we landed, ready to evaluate us and see how we're doing, and then work on a protocol to get us back. And like I said, I sneakily went for a run yesterday, but that's all as a result of their hard work.
Yeah, I mean, who would even imagine that you come back from 10 months in space, roughly 10 months, and within a week you run 2 miles at an 8-minute pace? I mean, that's not even conceivable that the body could handle that. But these folks get us ready to where those type of things happen.
Okay, we'll take our next question here in the room.
Yes, hello. I'm just wondering, there are a lot of people that depend on jobs here in the aerospace industry in the Houston area, 23,000 total. Wow. In the past, when there have been issues with NASA spacecrafts, there have been delays, and now we have another issue with the Boeing Starliner. Is there any concern that your issues with Boeing may delay future projects, future missions? And what would you say to one of your fellow astronauts before they go up on another test flight?
Well,
that's a great question.
Yeah, it's a great question. And, I think we all have alluded to it. There's lessons learned. And that's like a piece of hope, right? We're not just sitting here doing the same thing over and over again, and we're learning from every mistake potentially, or maybe a decision that we've made and how we could make that better and do better the next time. When we go to the moon, we won't have an International Space Station to maybe take a stop at. We really have to get it right. And because of our mission, I think that highlighted some areas where maybe we need to work on and get it right for our fellow astronauts. I think they're encouraged by that, right? You learn and you move on and you get better. And I think that's part of the learning process. It's part of the exploration process.
I mean, we are scheduled on Wednesday to meet with Boeing leadership, the program managers, senior chief engineers, to discuss some of these issues. They want to come together with us, Sonny and myself, because we lived through this with them, and get on board with what the future looks like. And having flight crew with background in test and acquisition involved in the processes going forward to make sure that we're dotting every I and crossing every T. But still, that doesn't mean that you're guaranteed success in anything. Like we've said many times, this is a tough business. And we're learning all the time to go further and further and further.
We'll take another question here in the room.
I'm Chang from New York Times. This is for all of you guys. I was wondering if you could sort of talk about your personal future. Sorry. There's been a lot of talk about this uncertainty about the future of the human spaceflight program, suggestions that ISS should be deorbited in a few years, there should be a pivot from the moon to Mars. How do astronauts feel about these potential changes? And 3 years is a lot longer than 8 months.
So we've each been able to do multiple missions to the space station, and I'll let Butch and Sonny add on to this. But one of the things that I noticed was a dramatic increase in the complexity and just the weightiness of the experiments that we were conducting this time around on the station since 6 years ago when I was last there. And it just gives you this sense that we are in the golden age of the space station right now in terms of the return on investment and what we're able to do there. And it's not just focused on return to benefit the Earth. It's also focused on enabling all those things that we're going to need as we go to the moon and on to Mars. And so I am really optimistic when I think about the future of human spaceflight.
Yeah, I would add on to, it was over a decade since I've been up there last, and I was pretty excited about what was going on. There was a lot going on when we first got there. It was an honor to be working with Crew 8 and seeing all that they were doing and just trying to help them with their stuff, and then, being, prime, moving up to the prime spots for Crew 9 and Expedition 72 as we took on a lot of experiments ourselves as well as spacewalks. And what the space station is doing to help us in exploration is really encouraging, and it's exciting. And I'm a little envious of the future astronauts. The guys who are coming behind us, they're going to have so many wonderful opportunities to do the same as us, add to that exploration, add to trying to find the answers to the next questions. It's going to be an exciting future. So I'm not worried about aerospace industry. I think there's a lot going on, and it's a great time to be in it.
We'll take our next question right here.
Hi, Ed Lavandera with CNN. Thanks for taking the time today. When you re-entered the Earth's atmosphere and came back to gravity, can you talk specifically about any kind of weird either sensations or experiences that you've had dealing with that over the last couple of weeks? And more importantly, did you know that you guys had been greeted by dolphins when you splashed out?
I can tell you that returning from space to Earth through the atmosphere inside of a 3,000 degree fireball of plasma is weird, regardless of how you look at it.
Doesn't matter what type.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what type. It's thrilling. It's amazing. I remember thinking about the structure of the capsule and the stresses that it was taking, that was ongoing as the drogues came out, and the whole capsule starts shaking and twisting, and thinking about the stresses taking place, and going, "Wow, I hope those cables hold." And then the parachutes open up, and then you're like, I've said it many times, there's not a better feeling returning from space that the parachutes open and work. And I didn't have the view in front of me, and thankfully Nick did. He had a view of the camera going out right off the top, and he said, 3 parachutes, good pair, 4 good parachutes. And I tell you what, it's a great feeling.
It was a great feeling.
And it's exhilarating because this, again, I can't help because it's within me. This is our national focus, national goals. We don't do this because NASA decides to do this or this or this. This is Congress and everything coming together to affect a human spaceflight program with a purpose. And part of that purpose includes bringing those astronauts back to Earth. And it's a thrilling ride like no other that you could imagine. And satisfying.
Yeah, yeah.
And I had requested dolphins as kind of a joke.
Yeah.
Somehow, they pulled it off.
Yeah, I just hats off, like Butch said, to Nick he's just commentating the whole way down. So there was obviously, we had trained this and gone over it while we were up on the space station and reviewed, but just to hear everything as it was ticking along, it's just really awesome to, like, you can envision it. You had a display, I think there's a camera that goes up, right, to see it. And Butch and I both had a window on either side where we were, and I was watching through the window as much as I could, but then all of a sudden, with the heating, it glazes over, and then you can't see outside. A funny thing that happened, though, after you can't see, you can still sort of see through it. We knew it was daylight, and we knew the folks were coming out to rig the spacecraft, and I see a little tennis shoe sort of going in front of the window, so I'm like, okay, our friends are here getting us ready to get back on the boat, and that was pretty special, too. I didn't see a fin, though. I wish I had saw a fin.
Okay, we'll head to our phone bridge. Our next question from Margaret Smith.
Hi, everyone. This is Margaret Smith from Worcester, Massachusetts, the home of Robert Goddard. Who started it all. Thanks for taking the time today. And my question to both of you is, for those who maybe are not especially familiar or who may sort of question the need for the space station, can you all make the case for why that work is important?
Why the station work is important.
Why the space station is important? Oh, the space station is amazing, right? So just sort of like we've talked about a little bit earlier in this conversation, so we're doing a bunch of stuff, like Butch alluded to, physiology, understanding what happens to humans as they're in space for a longer period of time. That brings in lots of science experiments in chemistry, in biology. Some of that stuff all comes back to Earth because we're doing some amazing stuff in the microgravity environment. Some of it is mirrored, for example, in our own human bodies. And so there's a lot of stuff that's happening for us, for exploration, for the humans, as well as for Earth. And then, as Nick alluded to, there's all sorts of systems and other things that we're testing up there to help us take those next steps to go back to the moon and onto Mars, figuring out all these exploration systems, including docking vehicles, like different types of spacecraft that we have up there, other types of commercial spacecraft that are coming up for resupply. That's all a huge program to get us to understand how we're going to take the next steps in exploration. I can't help also but talk about STEM. I mean, all of this is STEM, right? Science, technology, engineering, and math. And I'm hoping the work that we've done up there also encourages the next generation of kids to understand that important that is and how they can become involved. We did lots of experiments up there with kids and universities and companies, trying out new guidance, navigation, control algorithms and robots that were flying inside the space station, competitions, for example, for them. And that's pretty awesome that you can really touch and talk to kids on the ground as you're doing experiments up there, and they have their finger on the pulse of science experiments, and they can understand that and think to themselves, I could be part of this one day.
Our next question on the phone bridge is from Neil with ITV News.
Congratulations on a great job, everyone. Sonny, can I ask how your body is recovering to life with gravity after 9 months? And Butch, what's your message to others from your experience, the delays that you guys faced, and any lessons in patience for the rest of us down here?
Oh, I think I'm doing okay. I was just joking around and showing off a little bit, but no, seriously, we talked a little bit about our group, the Astronaut Strength Reconditioning folks that are getting us back in shape, and every day feeling better and better. It's pretty much a miracle to see how your human body can adapt. I mean, the first day we got back, when all of us came down the ladder and greeted everybody, it was we were all a little bit wobbly at that time, and it's amazing within 24 hours how the neurovestibular system kicks in, your brain understands what's going on. And then the agility and the weightlifting that occurs in the next week that makes you feel good enough to actually, like I mentioned, go out, run, actually lift weights, get in there, do squats and deadlifts and stuff already. That's pretty incredible. So I knew it was going to happen. We all knew it. We've all flown before. We all knew that there's just this little bit of a hump to get over, and then you can get back on it. Hope to do a couple of races in the springtime.
Yeah, I think the clear message is that, like I said when I started, it takes a team. It takes a team of motivated and passionate individuals. We don't have a human spaceflight program. You don't have folks sitting up here in a blue suit without the massive team that's making it all happen. We get to ride the point.
We are going to leave that there. That is SpaceX Crew 9, better known as Butch Wilmore, Sonny Williams, alongside Nick Hague there. Butch and Sonny, of course, the two astronauts who were expecting to spend just a few days in space, ended up spending 9 months before they arrived back. And they've been answering questions about their return to Earth and the effects on their bodies of being in space, and all sorts of things. Fascinating to hear, and also good, of course, to see them back here on terra firma. You are watching the UK Tonight, though. I'm Matt Barbett, and we begin this evening with the ongoing bust-up over bins in Birmingham. Refuse workers have been striking now for weeks in a row over pay, with some 17,000 tonnes of uncollected rubbish piling up on the streets of the city. The council has now declared a major incident in the hope of drafting in extra resources to clean up the whole mess, afraid of the growing public health impact. Tonight, the government confirmed it is monitoring the situation closely. More bins have been piling up across Birmingham for almost a month, with many streets left looking like this. And the local authority says picket lines have blocked waste lorries from leaving depots. The declaration of a major incident means more cleaning teams can be deployed, with an extra 35 vehicles and crews around the city. The ongoing strikes were discussed in the House of Commons earlier on.
Almost every area is plagued by overflowing bins, rats the size of cats, and opportunistic fly tippers exploiting the chaos to turn open spaces into dumping grounds. This